I want to change my life. What we usually mean by saying this is that we want to do something radical, something that breaks us out of the mundane life we've lived so far. To guide ourselves through this adventure, we usually look for frameworks, something that helps us navigate through the process. A blueprint, if you will. One common approach is to reverse engineer the life and success of people we look up to, which totally makes sense, but then we fail to do the one thing most of them actually did. Take the time to get there. It is not only that we want change, we want it with same-day delivery. But sadly, like the online shopping equivalent, rush decisions tend to be disappointing. And unlike the online shopping equivalent, we can't put our poor decisions into boxes and send them back to where they came from, but we have to live with the consequences. I personally believe there's a way more reliable and way more reasonable way to change your life. And that is to change your life's trajectory. Changing your life is a pretty serious endeavor and it can be scary. I know that from personal experience because I've done it quite a few times by now. Right about now, I'm about to do it again, to change things again, which led me to thinking through this whole changing your life thing and kind of revisiting what actually worked for me, what advice was valuable and what advice was nothing but false promises and actually worse than that, even a waste of time. Starting with the very first and most important point. A lot of advice out there focuses on tricks and hacks, and in my opinion, that is not only the wrong place to start from, but actually one of the core problems. You may have heard something like, you can trick your brain into thinking blah 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 blah. Tricking your brain ultimately results in tricking yourself. Usually into a dream or a goal that was sold you by someone who has framed it as the ultimate solution to one of your current struggles. But selling you a dream does not equal selling you a solution, and tricking your brain does not equal getting things right. Actually, if you look a little bit into modern psychology, we seem to be way beyond the days of pure behaviorist tactics. Look, tricks and habits count. They work and they're important. To a degree, but they won't do the job alone. Another issue that comes with all the modern and popular personal development tactics out there is visualization. And before you throw vision boards at me, hear me out. Visualization is based on the things you already know, stuff that exists out there in the world. So visualization naturally tends to mirror external inspiration rather than internal expression. The point I'm trying to make is that many of our dreams and goals are probably not ours to begin with. In fact, many of the things we do in our daily lives might not even be. What I'm referring to is the third person effect, which in this context is terribly explained, but for our purpose, here's the simplified gist of it. The choices we make are based in what we think our choices will make others think about us. And if you're thinking now, yeah, maybe others, but certainly not me. That is literally the third person effect. That is literally a third person effect in action. The other thing I just described, that's just a consequence that comes with it. And tapping into this is the opposite of self-awareness. It is moving blindly and often comes with blind trust we place in people that represent not who we want to be, but how we want to be seen. It is also a reason why we suddenly want to become a public speaker, a coach, or a YouTuber. But seriously now, it is also the reason why you should actually take the time to get to know yourself and figure out what it is that you really want. Unfortunately, there's not really a technique or a shortcut to it. The only thing I've figured out for myself so far is that a good place to start from actually is not a clear and measurable goal, but an overarching premise that guides all your decisions. And this can be something as simple as happiness or balance or courage or even curiosity. As long as it's something that you value over everything and that feels worth guiding your life. This way you can make sure that you set the right course and you at least roughly move into the direction that you want to. Setting tangible and measurable goals and then visualizing them definitely feels better. I get that. Our brains love predictability and they hate uncertainty. But to get to a place that is actually worth going to and not only enjoy, but trust the process no matter how hard it gets, you need to get to know yourself and figure out first what it is that you actually want. And chances are that it's not one of the dream life templates out there, but actually your very own thing. The biggest changes in my life seem to always have come from small adjustments, like getting a coffee grinder. Literally changed my life. Coffee will never be the same. But let's be serious here. We have this idea that you need to do big things to make big changes. Do something radical to radically change your life. But that only works if you want to live a life of the extreme, which to me sounds pretty exhausting. I mean, even the guys from yesterday seem to chill every once in a while. Plus, this whole notion of either you go all in or you don't go anywhere at all actually seems to keep a lot of people from changing things. And I don't think that needs to be the case. Here are, for instance, some of the things that actually had a big impact on my life. Choosing a different study subject that had nothing to do with what I was professionally trained for. Learning a creative skill that was considered essentially meaningless for me. Getting self-employed, which to a lot of people sounds exciting, but hereabout literally is just an act of bureaucracy. And moving to another city, which after traveling the world seemed fairly simple and unexciting as well. The only big thing I can actually brag about is quitting my job and traveling the world for 1.5 years. But that actually didn't change my life. It could have been just a very long vacation and I could have returned to my old life. That was absolutely in the realm of possible. But all the small things that I experienced on travels, they had a way bigger influence over me. Just like every other point had a way bigger impact than it might seem. Choosing a foreign study subject has resulted in changing my career options. Learning filmmaking has resulted in turning it into content creation. Getting self-employed has given me access to a more flexible work life and a more interesting work life overall. And moving to another city has changed my thoughts and feelings about what I consider home and actually triggered the decisions that I'm about to make this year. All of these decisions afforded some kind of leap, but none of heroic extent. They were just small adjustments. I literally just changed what was within my power and within my control. Adjusting even small things like your nutrition, your sleep habits, starting a new hobby, literally everything that serves your chosen premise pushes you and your life a little bit more into the direction you want to take. And I believe that these small changes, when chosen carefully and according to your overarching premise, will eventually take you down the path worth taking. That's why I'm advocating for changing your life's trajectory instead of twisting, turning, and bending it to the point it might actually break. It's your life that I'm speaking about. You don't want your life to break. Who wants that? Jesus. Which is not to say that sometimes you may, or you actually should, take a big leap. This is one thing that keeps most of us from substantially changing our life. We adopt healthy habits, learn tricks and hacks, and may eventually make them work for us, but we never move past our safety nets. We have all heard that overused comfort zone phrase, and the problem with it is that people explore the life outside their comfort zones, but only to the point that actually excites them, which is why skydiving, going to a Tony Robbins seminar, taking ayahuasca, or going to a retreat actually won't change your life. It won't. Parts of them may feel uncomfortable and overcoming them may feel good. It may actually even feel incredible, but there's literally nothing keeping you from returning to your old life, which is why we need to set points of no return. The idea is based in storytelling. Very often in a movie or even in a novel, the hero will be thrown into situations he cannot reverse, which forces him and the story to progress. The ultimate example for this may be the blue or red pill choice in the movie The Matrix. If I may take my own examples again. Choosing an unrelated study subject more or less meant I won't continue this career. Starting a public YouTube channel meant no more hiding. Getting self-employed meant no more financial safety net. Traveling the world literally meant goodbye old life. And moving to another city after coming back translated into not going back to that old life. Setting points of no return and actually taking the leap is about the right timing, and just like the first point, you have to figure this out for yourself. But what people seem to have in common is that they do not feel quite ready for it, but they also feel they are too far out and already too invested into an idea to turn back. It is a weird mix of agitated excitement and an anxiety at the same time. The first few times it might feel like an unbearable decision, but with time, it becomes a bit more familiar. Still not easy though. But if I ever stand at a point of no return, I will ask myself, is this how I want to continue my life? And depending on the answer, actions will follow. But there's one disclaimer I want to be totally serious about. Do not burn perfectly fine bridges. There's this weird notion out there that you should or that you even need to cut ties with each and everyone that is not helping you to achieve your goals, and that your inner circle is only worth as much as it's propelling your life to higher grounds. Essentially making lovely friendships grounded in mutual understanding of each other meaningless. Because how the fuck is this efficient? Or like a good job that has carried you, your life, and maybe your family throughout the years and made your latest decisions to actually change something possible in the first place. That's dumb and ungrateful. Life is not a video game. You cannot simply respawn or go to the last saving point. If you screw up big time, you screw up big time. That is also why points of no return is a good metaphor, but not to be taken word for word. Sometimes it might actually even feel like going back to something, but it might as well turn out to be just another challenge along the way. At least that's how I view it. Since once you change your life's trajectory, there is no going back. You're always moving forward. This is 2 points in one, and what I essentially mean to say is that if you really want to change your life, you need to do it yourself. You cannot and you should not rely on others, which doesn't mean that you need to leave everyone else behind and that you need to do everything on your own. Really, that's not what I mean. But whatever it is that you actually want, it is what you want, and therefore you need to hold yourself accountable. Accountability partners, an inner circle, or plain good old friends are great, but to be a great partner and a great friend as well, you need to be sure you are not simply shifting responsibilities onto them, but take responsibility yourself. Which actually goes as far as taking responsibility for what you will confront your future self with. Whatever your personal beliefs about identity and consciousness are, let's leave them aside for a moment and imagine that your future self is a whole different person. It is not you. You are only here and now. Future you is like a co-worker that will take over the project you call life at some point. The way I see it, we have two options. We can either hand our future self the best situation possible to create a successful long-term project together, or we can treat our future selves poorly and give them only little to work with, and with that, only little to achieve themselves once it's their time to take over. I personally want my future self to get the best material possible. I mean, I'm literally entrusting my life to him, and I want it to be a good one, and therefore I want him to have a good life as well. What I'm trying to say is, be kind to one another, but also to yourself. And my closing point is, take time, but don't wait. If you wait, it's never gonna happen. Each point I made can be set into action without damaging your life, without sacrificing anything too crazy, and without spending absurd amounts of money, which you, if you do, have to make yourself feel good about, because otherwise you feel guilty, which wouldn't be very life-changing, and that whole thing turns into a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle, spending money and actually, you get it. Get to know yourself better. Find the premise of your life. Change whatever can be changed and keep on changing things until you reach a point where you need to make a choice and eventually cross a point of no return. Take responsibility, take the leap, and when you do it for yourself. And don't wait. Changing your life takes a lifetime, but changing your life's trajectory can start today. But that's only me and my humble opinion, as someone who has been part of this personal development bubble and even of the
New Age spirituality movement.
I think that's their theme, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever. Actually, I'm rather interested what you think. What has impacted your life? Let me know. I'm keen to hear, I'm keen to read, and to get to know you a little bit. I see you.